Mr. President, I want to thank the senator from Michigan for bringing us together and making the point as clearly as we can make it, that last night we had a chance to launch maybe the most important single issue in debate that we could consider in the Senate. We had a chance to bring both parties to the floor of the United States Senate and ask for the best ideas each of us has to move the economy forward. The President has a plan. I think it's a good one. I support the plan. And I think that it's a reasonable way to move this economy forward and put people to work. But it is the nature of the legislative process that some will disagree with that one aspect of it, some with others, and members may have their own ideas to bring to the floor. That is what this branch of government is all about, that we have this debate, an open debate, Democrats and Republicans on the floor, and at the end of the day, vote on something to move forward with together. But last night, not one single Republican senator would join us in an effort to bring this matter to a debate on the floor. In fact, as the senator from Michigan has made over and over again, the point that the Republican filibuster requiring 60 votes to break the filibuster is really stopping the majority from acting in the United States Senate on the issue of creating jobs, a Republican filibuster. And that is problematic, it's troublesome, it's frustrating, because I'm sure in Michigan, where you have been racked for years now with unemployment and businesses struggling, we have similar problems in Illinois. 14 million Americans unemployed across the board. You take a look at what the senator from Kentucky comes and tells us every day as Republican leader. He tells us that one of the big problems with this bill, as he sees it, is that it's paid for. He doesn't like the fact that President Obama has paid for it. Certainly doesn't like the way he paid for it. And the way he paid for it is to impose a surtax on people making more than $1 million a year of 5.6%. That generates enough revenue over a 10-year period of time that we can give a payroll tax cut to working families across America, and we can provide tax incentives for businesses to hire unemployed veterans and people who have been out of work for a long time. The money generated from that millionaire's tax is going to end up allowing us to save, in my state, 14,000 teacher, firefighter, and policeman jobs that otherwise would be lost. It'll allow us to put money into modernizing our schools, which we need to do in Illinois and across the country, in Minnesota and Michigan, in Montana, in every state, and to build the basic infrastructure that America needs to be successful. Senator McConnell has said over and over again he will not agree to this tax hike. Let's take a look at what middle-income Americans are paying as an effective federal tax rate as opposed to the wealthiest in America. The point made over and over by President Obama, and a point worth repeating today: middle-class families in America, people making between $50,000 and $75,000 a year, have an effective federal tax rate of 14.9%. The wealthiest 1%, those making over $1 million a year, their effective federal tax rate 12%. 14.9% for middle-class families, working families, 12% for the wealthiest. What's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with it is that working families across America struggle paycheck to paycheck, and they are paying a higher federal tax rate than the wealthiest people in America. I think everyone in America has to sacrifice. Now, I know some of the most vulnerable in America can't. Physically, mentally, they cannot rise to this challenge, but the rest of us, for goodness sakes, have to be prepared to sacrifice. Working families are already sacrificing, living paycheck to paycheck. To ask the wealthiest people in America, who are comfortable in this country because of the greatness of our economy, this open and transparent system, this rule of law that we have, to ask them to pay a little more so that America can move forward is not unreasonable. And I would say this: in the end of the day, when the economy picks up and moves forward, and it will, the folks in the highest income categories are going to do quite well then as equally well. You know, it's just the bottom line here. They're going to do well. The ones I've run into, the ones I've talked to, who are fortunate enough to be in that category, I know a few of them, say, this is an unreasonable, Senator. Why do the Republicans oppose $1 in additional taxes to get the American economy moving forward? But that, of course, is the reason the Senate Republicans, not a single one of them, would support bringing this jobs bill from the president to the floor. And the second reason is fairly obvious. It's the president's plan. And for many of them, they're in full campaign mode now. They don't want to give this president anything that looks like a victory. So they're going to vote for anything that has his name on it. In fact, they will oppose things which historically they have supported. When President Bush came forward with his own stimulus plan to create jobs, supported by the Republicans, it had a payroll tax cut in it, Senator, a payroll tax cut for working families. It also had tax breaks for businesses to hire the unemployed. That's what President Obama proposes, and now the Republicans have said, oh, we liked it as a Bush plan, we don't like it as an Obama plan. What's the difference? The name. I don't think the American people are going to cut us any slack if they believe that we're spending more time designing bumper stickers for next year's election than we are in designing an economy that moves this country forward. I think they expect us. They demand of us that we respond to this. And when the Republicans impose a filibuster on President Obama's Jobs Act, it's just wrong. Let us have, as Senator Reid asked for last night, let us have the motion to proceed. Let's get on this matter, and let's do it this week. I want to say a word as well. Senator McConnell comes to the floor frequently and says, whoa, there's a big jobs bill coming up, the trade agreements. Well, listen, trade agreements can expand opportunity for the sale of goods and services. That's a fact. But when you look at the scheme of things and look at these trade agreements, the proposal I've read says that the South Korean trade agreement would expand U.S. exports by $10 to $11 billion and support up to 70,000 jobs. That's a lot of money and a lot of jobs, except when you look at the universe. $10 to $11 billion in additional exports to Korea at a time when we have a $15 trillion economy? Good, but not good enough. We need to make sure that we're expanding jobs at a greater rate to get people back to work. The other two trade agreements are much smaller in comparison. So to argue that these trade agreements are the engine that will pull us out of the ditch and drive the economy forward is to completely overstate the positive impact which they might have. So I would say to my friends on the Republican side, don't believe that voting for a trade agreement that generates $10 billion more in exports and 70,000 jobs will solve the problems we face in America. Yesterday, I went to a place called Career Tech in Chicago, funded by the federal government, an effort to take people who've been out of work for a long time and get them back in the workforce. They're introducing workers who had successful careers at businesses that closed to a new world, the world of social media, the world of information technology. And they're learning, and with that new education and training, they're getting new jobs. And I asked them about what life was like unemployed, and some of them have been out of work for over 2 years. I said to them, you know, the president wants to extend unemployment benefits for those out of work. A lot of folks on the other side of the aisle are saying, oh, we already tried that. We're not going to try that again. I said, what would have happened to your family without unemployment benefits? And to a person, they said, I'm not sure if we could have survived. And it meant basically making the mortgage payment, paying the utility bills, putting food on the table, the basics. So if the Republicans are opposed to unemployment benefits for those who can't find a job no matter how hard they try, unfortunately, that's going to have a devastating impact on working families across America. And just for a footnote here, I asked each one of them, what happened to your health insurance when you lost your job? They lost their health insurance. Think about it, Mom and Dad. Think about your responsibility to one another and to your kids with no health insurance. I mean, that's what happens to an unemployed person. Life is not a crystal staircase for these folks. They're just basically trying to get by and find a job. We need to help them. It's time for the Republicans to stop the filibuster and bring the Obama jobs bill to the floor. If you have better ideas, present those ideas as amendments. Our people will present their ideas. Let's have a full-throated debate about moving America forward. But for goodness sakes, let us not stop the American economy cold in its tracks in an effort to preserve a Republican filibuster. It's time for us to move together in a bipartisan nature as a Congress on both political parties. I thank my colleague from Michigan for bringing us together for this conversation. There's nothing more topical or more important that we face.